Miguel, the simple answer is no. No, I do not feel intellectual nausea when I raise philosophical questions. I do know what you're talking about I think, about the intellectual anguish in philosophy departments. And I'll assume you're not talking about the petty kind of anguish and the nausea that results from merely being in this intellectual pissing contest, but a more general one. From a genuine desire to get things right and understand things. But my philosophy comes from natural philosophy, literally from being in nature, believing that the lessons of philosophy are ultimately lessons abstracted from nature, from a study of science, trying to recollect a philosophy of science that was more general, that could be used as a philosophy of life. Um, Sort of rediscovering skepticism this way, and then discovering that it had all been put down as a philosophy, namely Pyrrhonistic skepticism and skepticism in general. I felt an intellectual nausea politically um, that I don't feel anymore, and also about philosophy to a certain degree in that just the way people try to use words to obfuscate, the way people try to catch you in ways that make it difficult to want to speak, the difficulty of using our natural language to express skeptical ideas, and to a degree, you know, the sense that that you can't say anything before the words get out. They're doubted, and to me, a really great metaphor for that is in Thus Spake Zarathustra, when the snake has his tongue and he has to figure out what to do about that. But never really facing the questions. That's always been a refuge for me from nausea at the way mankind is conducting its affairs, the way groups think, the way a real nauseating thing is to see somebody that can think for themselves at that moment, that they give up their autonomy and their individuality so they can fit in. That's nauseating. But yeah, coming from a natural philosophy point of view, there really isn't the same kind of angst, because you can always go back to nature, and if you don't know something, the information, it's like when you forget. Let's say you had a few things to do, you're gonna have to do, tomorrow, and you can't quite remember what they are, and that could, and your mind can just race around it. But let's say you have all five things written down on a list, and when you get home, you can refer to the list, and they're all there. Well, that's kind of how natural philosophy is. It's like, if I don't know something, I can't quite get my head around it, and I'm struggling to get it. There is no, oh my God, it's going to be lost forever. It's stored out there in nature. You know, it's like opportunity for knowledge does knock twice. It keeps knocking. It does its best to be undeniable. Humans do their best to deny it anyway, but it's relentless, and it'll come back for longer than our species will be alive. So I don't have an intellectual nausea about these questions, because I feel free to make models, and knowing the models don't have to be absolutely correct, knowing that even if they're really excellent models, that it's not that I've grasped something from the real world and put it in my mind. It's more that I've regenerated the perceptions that real thing causes, to a high degree of fidelity. So I can sort of feel the pride of craftsmanship without feeling some sort of angst that without me, the craftsman, the world will cease to make sense. And I think a common sort of nausea that I witnessed was as a reaction to confusion. People just hate the feeling of confusion. People that really want to answer questions of how things work, and of essences, of problems of the world. They can be subject to this confusion. and the contradictions in the world lead them in circles, nauseating circles. But to me, I didn't have that, because to me, I've always embraced confusion as the gateway from ignorance to knowledge. It's like people thought they knew this or that fact in history, and then they find, oh, wait, we're wrong, you and that has to go through confusion. Before you can get rid of some old dogma, you have to become confused. Wait, what's going on? So to me, that's always what confusion has been analytically. And the way I experience it, well, I like being confused. I like confusing, like grammar jokes, uh, confusing sentences. I enjoy that feeling of being exposed to confusion. And I can explain that enjoyment through the fact that learning really can be characterized as generating confusion about things you thought you were certain about. And that's like being in this great plasma of ideas where nothing is really quite tangible. There's just coursing energy all around you. But as you witness it, it settles back down. And if anything, that's the dangerous part, when you start to, oh, this is how things are. Because you'll just have to confuse yourself about that again in the future. But, yeah, I think it's a legitimate feeling. I have my theories about where it comes from. It's a little bit of it's a point I'm biased toward, to claim that really a lot of intellectual nausea comes from a misunderstanding of certainty as an absolute quality rather than a relative quality. You know, People think it's possible to be certain. They want to be certain. They want to put their words just so that they appear certain. And this creates a lot of angst and conflict, trying to achieve the impossible. But anyway, thanks for your video. And as far as speaking English, I applaud that. I took French and Spanish and Latin in my schooling years. Um, so as a result, I speak fluently English. But I can read and write fluently at college level, also English. But I did learn a lot of grammar from those three languages, specifically English grammar. So I appreciate somebody that can keep more than one language in their head, and and if it makes your tempo different or whatever, I'm willing to be tolerant. But also, I didn't find there to be any problem with your English. So anyway, thanks for the question. I hope there's a follow-up to clarify more, because intellectual nausea is a term that can be interpreted in various ways, and maybe you can narrow in on what you're getting at. Cheers.